Hello there, my name's Dan Money, Clinic Manager and Senior Health and Wellbeing Physiologist for Nuffield Health. Normally I'm based at the Vodafone offices in Newbury or Paddington, but for some time now I've been conducting online health assessments from home. And I'd encourage you to have a look at these as a good option to take a proactive approach to your health and wellbeing in the current climate. They're just half an hour via a Teams call and you can look at 8 different modules to explore your current health and wellbeing. For more details, have a look at the options on your My Choices benefits platform and opt in, and our team will give you a shout about booking in an online health assessment. So today I'm going to be doing a short talk on staying healthy at home, specifically focusing in on the area of physical health and wellbeing. So of course, a lot of us are now working from home and have been for a long time. And as I expect we've already experienced, this brings challenges and opportunities in terms of the way our lifestyle is impacted. Perhaps we've got less travelling to be doing, and that gives us a bit more time to focus on our lifestyle. But I know a lot of people have found that it's quite difficult to be lifestyle focused when we're working from home, because we tend to get our head into work, and it's often difficult to make the time and effort to fit in those healthy lifestyle habits, which might have been easier to fit in as part of the previous routines when we were getting out of the house a bit more. So the presentation today is going to explore how we can promote good physical health when we're working from home in relation to activity levels, nutrition and posture. So 3 key areas affect our health in terms of the impact our work has. Those are physical, psychological, social, and environmental, and they all overlap into one another in relation to the influence our work has. I mean, we spend a lot of our time at work, well, not at work anymore, but doing work. We can directly influence each of these areas by how we adapt our home working environment, habits, and attitudes. So environmental factors might be focusing in a bit more on the setup at home in relation to posture at the desk, making the effort to move about more in the environment we have. The habits, again, maybe activity, nutritional habits, and then attitudes, perhaps making a shift in mindset there towards thinking that, yeah, maybe it's not optimal in terms of what we can do at the moment, but if we make some effort, it's going to be a lot better for our health and well-being than making no effort at all. So when we're thinking around physical health, again, today we're going to look at activity levels, nutrition, energy, sleep, and posture. Activity first of all then. So in a typical pre-pandemic day, if you can remember those days, we could stay active through our commuting, going about daily lives, getting those steps in. Maybe some of us even are going to encounter the classic 10,000 steps without too much conscious effort, just through the movement during the day, going to and from different meetings, walking from the car to the office, or to the train station, whatever it might be. Working at home can therefore present a significant challenge to staying active. So we can be tempted just to spend a lot of time at the desk every day. I think a lot of people may have noticed the number on the scales creeping up slightly, or their clothing getting a little tighter over the course of this odd year. And that might be due to lots of different factors, but working at a desk job in front of a screen all day certainly can contribute to weight gain if you let it. A gradual decline in activity levels isn't always equalised with a reduction in calorie intake, which can lead to a calorie surplus, which, of course, as you guessed it, leads to fat storage. What are the risks of sedentary or no activity behaviour? So highlighted on this display, we can see that sedentary behaviour can link to increased risk for diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, increased risk for back pain, lower sleep quality, increased chances of putting on weight. So if there's no magic bullet in medicine, as we know, but if there was one, physical activity would probably be it. No other therapy provides as many health benefits. By being physically active, you can prevent or manage over 20 common conditions. and live a longer life, preventing chronic diseases. Physical activity also improves quality of life through lifting mood, helping to combat depression, providing an opportunity to meet people, although of course perhaps that's slightly reduced at the moment. Meeting virtually, of course, though, still good for social benefit. Achieving personal goals, aiding sleep, digestion, energy levels, and boosting brain function to offset age-related decline. Persuading inactive people to be more active can prevent 1 in 10 cases of stroke and heart disease in the UK, and also help to reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes, which is a massive epidemic, and people are getting that at a much lower age than they used to. Also, there's significant links to being active in terms of reducing risk for mental illnesses, including depression and anxiety, which of course have tending to be increasing in the last year or so due to the impact the pandemic has had on mental health in general. So let's firstly look at some tips for staying more active in the current climate. One thing that's very important to state in relation to guidance from today's seminar on being more active and doing more exercise is do of course stay within the government restrictions, recommendations at the moment around only taking 1 session of outdoor exercise per day, because that's obviously very important in relation to potential spreading of the virus. So first of all, let's think about some steps to get more active, reduce your risks and boost your feelings of well-being. So what about activity trackers? A lot of us have got these now built into our smartphones, or maybe we got a new Fitbit for Christmas or something like that. So maybe those are a good thing to use to prompt us to be more active throughout the day. You can set them up to buzz at you if you've been sat at the desk for longer than 30 minutes and not moved. You can obviously also set yourself challenges in relation to tracking a certain amount of steps. And why not, get together with a few colleagues or a friend and come up with a little leaderboard or challenge to achieve a good number of steps each day, so you can do the most, perhaps something like that. There's lots of other useful technology-based ideas for staying more active. The NHS has a couple of really good apps. One is the Couch to 5K app, which is obviously a progressive way to build up towards running 5K. And then there's the Active 10 app, which challenges you to include 3 times 10-minute bouts of moderate activity each day, which they've shown is probably as beneficial, if not slightly more beneficial, than the 10,000 steps for overall health. A really nice idea that I heard of recently during an online health assessment was also virtual walks together using Teams or Skype. So as you set out on your walk or jog even, you could have a friend there alongside you to join you, catch up and share some news on what's going on. So let's next have a look at the type of exercise we should be doing and why. And I think it's important to say that exercise and activity, whilst there's a big overlap between what is exercise and what is activity, in an ideal world we should both be active in terms of incorporating a good amount of movement, not sitting too long each day. But ideally, of course, if we can include some structured exercise, there's some additional benefits. And the next few slides are going to look at the government guidance on structured exercise in terms of the modes, frequencies, intensities that's recommended. And whilst I will say that obviously currently it's more difficult to achieve these due to the restrictions, it's not necessarily the case that you have to achieve these yardsticks to achieve health and wellbeing benefits. In fact, there's probably more significant benefits to health and wellbeing overall going from being completely sedentary to doing something, even if it's not a lot, than there is from going from doing something to meeting these targets, for example. So the targets are generally realistic for most people, but if you want to build up towards them or obviously ideally exceed them, then that's fantastic. So what we're looking for ideally is 150 minutes of moderate intensity cardiovascular exercise each week, 75 minutes vigorous exercise each week. They're the minimum recommended amounts. Moderate exercise, to get the benefits, takes a bit longer, as you can see there. That could be split up into 5 times 30-minute sessions each week. For example, 5 30-minute really brisk walks each week would tick the box there. But you don't have to do that. You could do 2 or even 1 really long session each week. But probably the benefits for mental health and well-being for doing the more frequent shorter sessions, probably a bit more, I would say, because you're going to get that benefit of getting away from your desk a bit more frequently. So moderate, yeah, that's like sort of 5 to 6 out of 10 effort exercise where you're getting a bit warmer. It's a little harder to hold a conversation, but you can still talk to someone exercising with you. Vigorous exercises where you're really feeling like your heart and breathing rates have increased to the point where it's really quite a lot harder to hold any conversation, and you're probably getting quite hot and sweaty. Exercise that gets you to that kind of heart rate and breathing rate is whether it's moderate or vigorous, is the type that's really linked to overall health benefit in terms of reduced risk of heart disease, impact on factors like blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. And you will also still get benefit from that type of exercise generally for your muscles, bones and joints in terms of movement. There's probably a bit more specific benefit though for muscles, bones and joints by doing actual specific resistance training exercise. That might be doing some body weight exercises or using some weight training equipment. Again, unfortunately at the moment, at the time of reading this presentation out to you, gyms are closed, but there's lots of ways to adapt using exercise equipment at home or your own body weight to provide a good amount of resistance to stimulate those muscles, bones and joints, and again reduce risk for injury, keep yourself strong as you age. In fact, these recommendations for resistance exercise, they may even be particularly aimed more at people over 60 to 65, and that's in relation to keeping up mobility and functionality as we age. So types of exercise you could look at home. We've got the ever popular HIIT type training. Really good option for that. Really good option is that, I should say, because that provides often body weight exercises performed at a high tempo, so you can argue that it gives you a good kind of best of both worlds approach from resistance and cardiovascular training, as you're often using lots of different muscles and joints throughout your body, but also getting your heart and breathing rates up to achieve the cardiovascular health benefits. Particularly, people tend to find that from that exercise that gets their heart rate up, they can get a really good feel-good feeling, release or improved circulation of hormones like serotonin, which can really help to boost positivity and mental health. So yeah, there's lots of good resources on the internet, of course, for HIIT training, but I particularly recommend having a look at Nuffield Health 24/7, which is a web-based platform that's available at the moment for everyone for free. And it's got some very good structured workouts, very well presented workouts you could follow there from your work laptop in your living room. They've also got on there workouts such as yoga and Pilates that are a bit lower intensity in terms of the cardiovascular effort, a bit more focused on the flexibility, muscular strength and conditioning side of things. It's really good to get those core muscles working, because obviously they're largely speaking asleep when we're sat at the desk, and in the long run that can certainly impact on risk for back pain. So get those going with those sort of workouts. And then of course getting outside still an option. Obviously only once a day at the moment, but getting out walking, cycling or running, still a fantastic way to get a cardiovascular workout in. So some tips here that I'll whiz through quite quickly on staying motivated, because we sort of covered these a bit in a previous slide around activity levels. Again, using those online resources or workout apps that are available. And another app that we'll probably mention a bit later on in relation to nutrition, a very popular one is MyFitnessPal, which you can use to track your diet and exercise levels and look at your energy balance, i.e. your calories in versus calories out. Which I know people do find motivating in relation to checking that they're on the right track with their diet, particularly in relation to weight control, I suppose. There's also options here and detail on how investing in a bit of equipment can make a big difference to becoming more motivated to exercise at home. So that might be purchasing some equipment, such as a small set of weights to use at home, or resistance bands, or maybe a turbo trainer to turn your outdoor bike into a indoor bike. At the moment, I think it can be quite tough to get hold of some of that exercise equipment, mind you. I think a lot of places have put the prices up and or are sold out, but you can still find some stuff. Particularly stretchy bands, I think, are an excellent option, which don't take up much space at home. You can often mount those into something to provide resistance to sort of pushing and pulling movements that are very functional in terms of mimicking those movements we use in everyday life for staying strong and active. So yeah, just one last thing on this slide that's worth mentioning is if you haven't exercised before or are getting back into exercise after a long time, then take it easy to start with. I don't think there's any benefit to trying to necessarily work out at a very vigorous or high intensity for the first few sessions. For a lot of people, they won't get injured necessarily, but they're likely to incur a significant amount of muscle soreness and stiffness that may well put them off doing that next session in a few days' time. And more typically, if you build it up a bit more gradually, probably going to find that that's going to make you want to stick at it a bit more. Obviously, if you've got factors in your health that make it more difficult to exercise, do so within your means, and always check with your doctor if you're concerned about your ability to perform a certain modality of exercise. So let's next move into the area of nutrition and how might working at home affect my diet. And again, the title of this slide is perhaps a bit previous because we've all been working at home for quite a long time now and probably have experienced the ways working at home has affected our diet already. It can certainly be the case, I think, for a lot of people I've experienced, that due to the fact that I'm not in my usual routine, I'm not traveling to the office, being in the office, I'm not therefore perhaps going to prepare my lunch to take to work with me, etc., like I would have been doing. So yeah, thinking about ways in which we can stick to our dietary routines or healthy routines, or establishing healthier routines, in fact, now we're home based, is probably going to be pretty important. So areas we'll have to focus in on here are the eating routine, food availability, distractions, portion sizes, and food quality. So first of all, on eating routine, I think it's important to look to try and maintain normal eating patterns and timings where possible. Trying to plan your food each day around what you've got going on, such as, meetings. If you've got meetings that sometimes perhaps do get booked across the time when you might be normally eating, trying to make sure that you kind of prepared something to eat soon after that, so that you're not going to miss out on a meal, end up getting too hungry, and then head down the route of sort of snacking on unhealthy foods and or overdoing it at dinner time or something like that. Taking the time to prepare food in advance can be quite a good idea. So trying to maybe on weekends or on free time during the week, pre-prepare simple meals that you could keep in the fridge to heat up, or cooking larger volumes of your evening meals that you would then store away. Although I know that can be a bit dangerous for some people if they may feel compelled to eat more if they've cooked more on the day, so be aware of that too. Planning your week's food ahead in terms of making a shopping list, doing a good weekly shop for your menu that you've got coming up that week, can be a really good way to obviously avoid too many supermarket visits, which is obviously useful at the moment in relation to the pandemic and whatnot. But having those healthy snacks available more easily, readily available, and reducing the availability of snack foods that might be less healthy, like biscuits, cakes, chocolates. If they're literally by your desk as you work, they'll be very hard to resist. If they're out of sight, they can to a large extent be out of mind. And if, of course, it's doable to have less of those available at all, meaning you've got to go out and get them, then people will generally reduce their intake. And if you can have the healthier snacks there available, like fruit, nuts, something like that, will be much better for generally a bit less calories and less impact on your health. Oh, I skipped past a bit on distractions there. So yeah, avoiding eating whilst working. It's good to take time to have your snacks, have your lunch in a peaceful environment away from your work screen. It's going to give your body a chance to digest the food better. It's going to give you a little bit of a mental break as well. So definitely think that's important. You know, eat at your desk while you're working if you have to, but avoid it if possible. Portion sizes, yeah, I suppose that's important to think about, particularly as we said earlier in relation to people perhaps being a bit less active due to not moving about as much during the day. Obviously, hopefully you can, but if you know you're not quite as active, it's probably sensible to reduce portion sizes a little bit, or particularly obviously if you're working on weight control, then some of these little tips, such as using slightly smaller plates, some studies have shown that can actually trick the mind into eating, being satisfied with a smaller portion. You know, making treat foods more smaller portions, such as, I don't know, if there's a sort of bigger chocolate bar or something that's in the house at the moment, taking that out of its wrapper and putting it in smaller wrappers or something like that might be a way to avoid sort of ploughing into the whole thing, and trying to you know, give yourself the portion that you feel you should be having, rather than one that's overly large that you're then likely to feel compelled to finish because you don't like wasting food. Cooking the right amount of food to start with is also going to be very important for portion size control. Food quality, obviously that's not something that should necessarily need to change, but again, maybe because of the current situation, people are heading more towards convenience foods, takeaways, if that's still an option at the moment, and trying to keep those to a limited treat. Obviously, you know, we tend to recommend here that enjoy the things you really enjoy, if that is takeaway food once in a while, such as once a month or so, but if you can generally focus in on a higher quality Mediterranean style diet, that's going to help in the long run with lots of health factors, and yeah, you know, help to reduce disease risk in the long run as well. Here's just a simple example of a menu that you could look at throughout the week. So you could pause this slide and look at some healthy options there. More so, the idea though with this is just to demonstrate how planning your food throughout the week might be a really good idea for helping to, you know, avoid the chances of last minute changes in the diet that might lead to choosing something convenient and less healthy like a takeaway. And again, reducing those trips to the supermarket. You could have you know, a menu perhaps less complicated than this one, but you could have a whiteboard or a chalkboard in your kitchen that you could have your menu written out on, that you'd see throughout the week as a bit of a visual reminder of what's coming up and what you need to do to prepare those meals ahead a little bit. Some tips on the side there about food intake. So you could, for example, again, use an app or a simple notepad just to track down you know, things that have come up around your nutrition, in terms of making those links between what was going on and what caused you to make that particular food choice, such as on a busy day, did you end up having more snacks, and what could you have done to make that different? Perhaps, you know, again, planning something a bit more, reducing the availability of the snacks, making some healthy swaps, which leads us into the next slide. So yeah, some simple swaps there, pretty self-explanatory really, of how you could swap convenient options that are likely to be higher in salt, sugar, fat, calories, with healthier home-made options, which are likely to be better for your health. Let's move into posture. So posture at home, yeah, obviously working in front of a computer screen for long periods of time is not ideal. Even if you're sitting in a good posture from a technical perspective, it's not really very good for your body. The body's designed to move, not be wedged into a chair all day long. So the factors that we'll review around this, we'll look at screen height, keyboard access, keeping your feet on the floor, lumbar support and desk height and chair height. If you're a Vodafone UK employee and you've got a query about your current DSE setup, or would like to look at ways you could improve this, I'd recommend having a look at the internal DSE processes, which can be found, I believe, on the September 2020 edition of your Wellbeing newsletter. If you look back through your emails, you should hopefully see that. You can also find a link to the information at the bottom of the UK Wellbeing SharePoint page. So yeah, screen height, definitely raise your monitor up. If you're using a laptop, put it on top of something, plug in a separate keyboard or mouse. That's going to obviously help to keep you more upright, keep your head and neck at a more neutral angle, and avoid building up too much muscular tension around there that over time can really influence posture and result in obviously neck aches, back aches, etc. Lower back is obviously an area where a lot of people do run into problems at points, and desk-based work has for a long time been blamed for that. So you really want to avoid having a big hole in behind your lower back as you sit slouching, or hollowing your lower back excessively when sitting, because all of those can tend to put too much pressure on the spine and the joints in that area. Really recommended to try and have a chair that promotes that gradual inward lumbar curvature in the lower back. If you've got a nice executive car, though mind you, I expect most car seats now have got some form of lumbar adjustment where you can feel that slight effect of a push or support in your lower back. Try and replicate that, perhaps with a towel rolled up in the small of your back. Again, getting your desk height at the right position so that your elbows are in around 90 degrees, again, helps to keep the joints in a more neutral position and avoid too much muscular tension building up. Keeping your keyboard in easy reach, so that you're not having to stretch your arms out too far in front of you to reach your keyboard, or you're becoming too crunched up. Both again are going to help to avoid compensations developing in your posture that over time can really increase your risk for back pain. And again, you want to keep your feet on the floor so that your weight isn't only supported by your chair, because again, if your feet are off the floor, you're going to be having to create tension in other muscles to keep yourself steady throughout the day, even though you might not realise it. I'd really recommend actually having a look on YouTube. There's a video that Nuffield Health did some time ago now called The Science of Slouching, and that's got a really good review from a physiotherapy perspective of how to set up your workstation to avoid long-term postural impact. So to summarise what we've covered today, keep moving by breaking up regular periods of sitting. Stay active by trying different types of exercise that target different areas of fitness, such as HIIT training or yoga and Pilates. Stay motivated by using apps and trackers and setting challenges with your friends and colleagues. Where possible, maintain your diet routines, portions, food types, and try and keep those biscuits and leftover Christmas chocolates tucked away if you can, or give them away to someone even. Track your diet to see how much and what you're eating. That can be a useful exercise to do for some people, not necessarily for everybody, but particularly if you're looking to kickstart a bit of a fat loss or weight loss target, that can be a really good awareness raising thing to do to make sure you're still in a calorie deficit and working towards fat loss. Maintain good posture by adjusting your setup and getting some extra support or equipment if you need to help with that can obviously be very important. Lastly, just a reminder of some wellbeing services that are available to you as a Vodafone employee. I've covered these in previous webinars, but just to whiz through these again. Silver Cloud is an emotional wellbeing support platform that you can find. Again, you can sign up to that. You can find information, all of these, on the Wellbeing UK Wellbeing SharePoint. That has lots of useful self-help guides and tools to put in your toolbox for improving resilience to stress and pressure. I mentioned the free health screenings that I'm conducting at the moment, which are just 30 minutes long and can increase your understanding of your current health and well-being. You've got the virtual GP appointments for medical solutions if you've got a more medical concern on your mind at the moment. The employee assistance program has a wide array of resources ranging from support on relationships, financial matters, to again, stress and pressure issues that are going on at the moment. That's all possible to have sessions with a one-to-one counsellor with that. And then you've got the many mental health first aiders available within Vodafone to reach out to if you've got anything on your mind there that you'd like to speak to them about. And of course, as I say, join the wellbeing community and workplace to keep up to date with all the latest wellbeing information and interventions that are going on within Vodafone. So lastly, thank you for taking the time to listen into this today. I wish you all the best for continuing to stay healthy and active whilst working from home, and I look forward to speaking to you on another webinar soon. Thank you. Goodbye.